I wanted to share a story about when I was a kid that still disturbs me to this day. We had a room in our house unlike any other. It wasn't different aesthetically, only in what it was used for. It had only one purpose: to punish us when we misbehaved. My brother and I hated that room, but not for the reason you might be thinking. To us, it was just the annoying, boring place we had to stand in when our parents were upset with us. And yeah, we usually deserved it. We hated it, but as we grew up, we knew it was justified. However, it was too dark. Not kid afraid of the dark. Not the hallway light is off dark. This was the kind of dark that felt unnatural, the kind most people never experience. In our house, it was just called the timeout room. It sat at the end of the hall, tucked between the linen closet and the spare bedroom, a plain door with a plain knob and nothing special about it. No warning sign, no lock. If you didn't know what it was for, you'd assume it was storage or a guest bedroom. But my brother and I knew. If we misbehaved, talked back, snuck cookies, fought too loud, or slammed a door, we were sent there. Timeout room, Mom used to say. Lights off, door closed, that was the punishment. And when you're little, it makes sense. Darkness is uncomfortable, it makes you behave, it makes you feel small. My mom never raised her voice. My dad never counted to 3. They never lectured. They never dragged us by the arm. They just pointed. And we went. For a long time, it really did feel normal, like a strict but fair rule in a strict but fair house. If my brother went in first, I'd press my ear against the door and whisper, "How long you got?" Sometimes he whispered back. Sometimes he didn't. Sometimes I'd hear him sniffling, and sometimes I'd hear nothing at all. Then my turn would come. Mom or Dad would point and I'd walk to the timeout room. I'd open the door and peer inside first every time, giving my parents a chance to change their minds. But of course, they never did. Peering into the room from the outside always felt weird. The only areas visible were where the light from the hall spilled in. There were no windows, no furniture. There was nothing inside except a tall standing lamp. It stood in the corner of the room, its rough yellow lampshade dark. It was always just barely visible in the dim light. I'd walk in and close the door, letting the darkness claim me. Then I'd stand there with my arms at my sides, staring into nothing, counting in my head the way kids do when they're trying to make time move faster. 10 Mississippi, 20 Mississippi, 30 Mississippi. I never thought to question why the room was always so much darker than the rest of the house, why no light ever seeped in from the cracks in the door. I never wondered why the door shut with a soft but distinct click even though it had no lock. I never asked why the lamp in the corner was the only thing in the room, and I never asked why I wasn't allowed to turn it on. Because the rules were simple. Darkness was the punishment. You don't turn on the light. And when you're a little kid, rules feel like physics, like gravity, like something the world is built out of. They are immovable, but then you get older, and rules start to look less substantial, less like fate, and more like choices. I was maybe 10 or 11 the first time I decided I was done playing along. It was something petty that got me sent there, talking back, I think. I remember the heat in my face, the sharp satisfaction of having said what I said, and then the immediate punishment. Timeout room. I stomped down the hallway like it was my own house and my own rules, threw the door open and stepped inside with my chin up. The door closed behind me, the darkness swallowed me, and I waited for my eyes to adjust. But they didn't. They never did. There wasn't even the tiniest bit of light coming from underneath the door like there should have been. This wasn't something I had considered before, but now it seemed odd. That should have been the first red flag. Darkness always softens after a few seconds. Even at night, you can usually make out shapes, a window, a doorway, or even your own hands. But in that room, you couldn't. It wasn't just darkness. It was blank. Like my eyes were open, but the sun itself had been turned off. I stood there, irritated, defiant. Then slowly, Curiosity started crawling up the back of my neck. There was a lamp in there. I knew there was. I'd always seen it when the door was open. So why couldn't I see even the faintest outline of it then? This was the first time I ever allowed my mind to really wander in that room. I reached my hands out and started feeling the air in front of me, stepping carefully. Soon my fingers brushed a wall. I slid them along it, moving sideways until I found the lamp's shade, rough fabric and dusty at the top. There was the switch, a little turn knob on the socket. My heart knocked once against my ribs. Not fear exactly, more like the thrill of breaking a rule, the thrill of making my own decision, possibly the first real choice I had ever truly made for myself. I turned it, it clicked, and I heard a slight buzzing, but nothing else changed. I frowned into the void, blinking hard, again. Then again, like my eyes were somehow stuck. Still nothing. A cold beat of uncertainty formed in my stomach. The lamp had clicked. I'd felt it, heard it. So why was it still perfectly black? I reached up again and felt around the socket. Maybe the bulb was missing. Maybe it was loose. Or maybe it had just burned out. My fingers found the bulb and I pressed my fingertips gently against the glass, holding them there. 1 second, 2, and then I yanked my hand back so fast I almost stumbled. The bulb was hot, the lamp was on, and I still couldn't see a thing. My mouth went dry. Confusion overtook me. My first thought was something childish and yet terrifying in a real-world way. What if I couldn't see any more at all? What if I'd gone blind? I swallowed and lifted my hands in front of my face. Nothing. I waved my fingers, still nothing. I squeezed my eyes shut and opened them again, wide, like I could force light back into them. But still the darkness remained. My breathing got louder in the silence, faster as confusion turned to panic, but I frowned again as I noticed something. The rhythm of my breathing didn't quite line up anymore. It sounded wrong. I held my breath, but the other one didn't. A second breath, a faint, wet inhale. Behind me. I turned, but the sound still came from behind. My skin prickled. I turned again, faster, still behind me. It wasn't moving around the room, it wasn't echoing, it was just there, right behind me, breathing. My breath stopped and I could hear it clearly. At first it was slow, like someone trying to stay quiet. Then it sped up. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Closer than close. The kind of close you feel in your bones. I wanted to call out. I wanted to yell Mom or Dad or even my brother's name, but something in me knew it wasn't them. Then I felt a pressure touching my face. Soft at first, like a blanket being ruffled. Not like it had just been placed there, but like it had always been there and had only just moved a little. Then I could feel it, firmer, specific. 2 shapes pressed over my eyes. Not cloth, not a hood. Hands. 2 hands, one covering each eye, palms sealed against me. My whole body locked up. The breathing was right at my ear now, rapid and eager, like whatever was behind me was excited that I'd finally noticed. Excited or angry. I lifted my own hands and grabbed at the ones covering my eyes. They felt wrong. Too cold. Too smooth. Not skin, not quite. More like rubber that had been sitting in ice water. I yanked and twisted, panic rising like a scream up my throat, but the hands didn't budge. They clung to me with a strength that didn't make sense for something with fingers that thin. I started flailing, swinging my elbows back over my shoulders, trying to hit whatever was attached to me. The moment my elbow connected with something solid behind my head, it screeched. It was not a sound I had ever heard before, a sound like metal dragging across metal. So loud my ears rang instantly. So sharp it felt like it was slicing my skull open. I screamed, pure reflex, pain and terror spilling out of me, and I threw my arms back harder, clawing, punching blindly at whatever was latched onto me. It answered with a monstrous bite, sharp teeth embedding into my skin where my neck met my shoulder. I felt a sudden tearing heat, like someone had pressed a row of needles into my skin and pulled. I howled, and my knees buckled. My whole world was still black, those cold hands now starting to dig into my eye sockets, the screech drilling into my head. My strength was leaving me. My throat grew hoarse as I screamed until it cut out entirely. Gone. In the absence of my own terror, I could hear the buzzing from the lamp, now much louder than when I had first turned it on. I tried to stagger forward to slam into the door to get out, but it was still latched onto my neck. The buzzing grew even louder. I started to feel dizzy, my body beginning to sway, and then the door flew open. I heard it swing and slam against the wall. I still couldn't see anything, but I could feel it, like warmth on my face, like the air changing. Footsteps came fast and heavy. No gasp, no scream, no voice at all, just movement. Then a solid impact right behind my head. The hands ripped off my eyes in an instant, scratching my face. The thing cried out, its screech cutting into a strangled sound, and then disappeared like an echo through a pipe. I collapsed forward onto the carpet, gasping, clawing at my face, my neck burning where I'd been bitten. I blinked and blinked and blinked, but the darkness stayed. I couldn't see. I still couldn't see. Then I felt arms around me. My mom pulled me against her chest like she was trying to shield me from the room itself. Her hands were warm, human, real. "It's okay," she said, and her voice was calm in a way that didn't match what had just happened. It's okay, you're okay." I shook so hard my teeth clicked. "I can't see," I choked out. "Mom, I can't see." "I know," she said softly, rocking me. "I know, just breathe, just breathe." The hallway smelled like laundry detergent and dinner. Normal smells. Safe smells. My mom's shirt pressed against my face. Her heartbeat was steady, like this wasn't a surprise, like she'd been waiting by the door. I squeezed my eyes shut again and forced them open, and suddenly light. The hallway snapped into place. The carpet, the walls, the open door. My mom's face above me, pale but composed, her eyes focused on me and not on the room. I sobbed and clung to her like a drowning person. Behind her, past her shoulder, I could see into the timeout room now. She had pulled me out without me realizing it. I could see inside clearly now. The lamp was on. The shade glowed, but the inside of the room still looked wrong. Not dark anymore, just deeper than it should have been. Like the corners didn't end where the walls were supposed to. Like the room had more room inside it than the house had space for. But as I blinked, my vision blurring and unblurring, the room seemed to fade back into reason. It was normal once again. My mom shifted, blocking my view. Her hand pressed gently at the back of my neck, and I flinched from the pain. She didn't ask what happened. She didn't check the lamp. She didn't look for what bit me. She just held me and whispered that everything was okay over and over until my breathing slowed and my crying turned into hiccuping silence. When I finally pulled back enough to look at her, I expected anger, confusion, fear, but all she gave me was a tired, practiced expression, the kind adults wear when a storm they expected finally arrives. "Why is that room like that?" I whispered. My mom's thumb brushed my cheek, wiping away a tear. "Because," she said quietly, "it works." That was all. No explanation. No comfort beyond her arms and her voice. She carried me away from the doorway, and when I looked back one last time, she shut the timeout room door with the same soft click. I didn't tell my brother what happened, and he didn't ask. After that, the bite mark on my neck healed into a small crescent scar that can still be seen if you look close enough. The timeout room stayed at the end of the hallway. The lamp stayed in the corner. The rules stayed the same. Lights off, door closed. And I'll give you the neat little ending everyone wants, because it's true. I never misbehaved again. She was right. It works.